We've talked on this program in the past about the fact that there has been so much waste by the fiscal court, and a funny story, Pat. You know, I talked last week about how the fact that the weeds up my holler hadn't been cut all year. As soon as the radio show airs, I got a call from a friend of mine who works for county government. Said after my comments on the radio last week, believe it or not, on September 1st, the weeds were cut for the first time this year on my holler. So we almost made it into 2017 without getting the weeds cut. But Pat, really, we've got a lot of hardworking men and women who work in the Pike County government. And it's really been unfair what they've had to deal with. They've been provided substandard equipment. They've had a lack of resources to work with. And, we've got magistrates, former magistrate who maintained a full-time law practice, another magistrate, my magistrate, who has a full-time accounting practice, and they probably make more than anybody that works under them, in the road department, for instance. That's one of the most important things that county government does, is they take care of hundreds of miles of county road. And it's really been a system, Pat, that has been set up to take care of 7 people. It's been set up to take care of 6 magistrates and a county judge. They have benefited handsomely with the pay and the benefits, while a lot of the people who work for them have not. And one of the gentlemen who works in the fiscal court told me that they had cut more than $7 million out of their budget in the last 18 months. Well, my question is, if you were able to cut $7 million out without a substantial change in the services, why were you spending that $7 million to start with? Exorbitant salaries for some people that, according to my source, really weren't doing a whole lot. You had massive waste in the insurance, parks and playgrounds that they didn't have the money to maintain or keep up. Deputy sheriffs driving cars with 150 or 200,000 miles, and magistrates driving new pickup trucks. They're getting cell phones at the county expense, $20 a month. I mean, I don't know about anybody else listening to this radio program. I don't know anyone that can find a cell phone for $20. And I mean, it's just been an ongoing system of benefiting 7 people. And we have a county judge right now, Pat, that's if you watch the fiscal court meetings, it's really sad the situation we have, and and that needs to be rectified. And I've been open about the fact that I believe that a commissioner form of government certainly could do no worse than the system that we have in place. There have been a lot of rumors about the commissioner form of government, but basically it would save a significant amount of money, and I believe would help get some better qualified people in those positions. And the worst thing that could happen is you have commissioners for 4 years, and you could go back with another petition to magistrates if that's what the people wanted. But if you don't think the system is broken, the priorities, the insurance problems, this $400,000 loan to this company, RCC Big Show, and I was told last week that company, instead of coming to Pike County, is now saying they're going to Floyd County. Well, where's our $400,000? I mean, nothing against Floyd County, but we loaned $400,000 to this venture, the county fiscal court did, and they're going to another county? Where's our money? And instead of the fiscal court suing Utility Management Group on an Open Records Act case or filing lawsuits against the legislature, they need to be trying to get their $400,000 back. That's $400,000 in taxpayer money that's not been accounted for. Just like we've been insuring a building at Majestic for $1.7 million, I think is what the newspaper said. But this whole thing, Pat, I want to touch on this Utility Management Group issue. That was a big issue in my last election. There were so many lies and fabrications made up. And, Greg May, who's from over on Coon Creek, one of my closest friends, and he's one of the owners of that company. I think there's several owners, but he's also runs the day-to-day operations. And, Pat, really why Utility Management Group was targeted, in my opinion, was 2 things. One is Greg wouldn't support some people politically. And in fact, one magistrate who had a son-in-law that worked for Mountain Water when Utility Management Group, and let me explain this to people. Utility Management Group handled none of the money. The Mountain Water District Board is appointed by the Fiscal Court, and now they're back in control of even the day-to-day operations. Well, back in 2005 or 6, the members of the board at that time felt that there needed to be some professional management brought in because they didn't even have a safety program for the workers. They didn't have any kind of maintenance plan in place for the system's infrastructure. So they bring Utility Management Group in. They've been running the city of Pikeville for years. They've done a great job. There's never been a controversy.
They have.
Go look at the work they do in the city of Pikeville. It's probably the cleanest small city in eastern Kentucky by far, and maybe even in this part of the country. Well,
and the job they do during hillbilly days, you would never know 80,000 people had been in town the day after.
That's right. You come out to church on Sunday morning, there's not even been a sign that there was a festival there on Saturday. Now, there was one magistrate that had a son-in-law that worked for Utility Management Group, and he was making $13 or $14 an hour when Utility Management Group took over the management. And when they took over management, they assumed all the responsibility for all the employees. Well, this magistrate asked Greg to give his son-in-law a raise up to about $20 an hour, and Greg said, "I can't do that." Well, it's not too long after that this magistrate starts leading the charge to try to, cause Utility Management Group to lose the contract with Mountain Water. It was all purely political. It was driven solely by the county judge, our current county judge, because he didn't think Greg May would support him or didn't support him. And then, of course, some of my political opponents. And Greg is one of my closest friends, Pat, and, I've made no bones about that. And it's so unfair that a guy like Greg May, whose dad was killed in a mine accident when he was 5 years old, that's worked for everything he has had a group of people who have been dependent on government. One of them, a lawyer that's drawing a full-time salary or, a full-time pay from the fiscal court, maintaining a full-time law practice in another state, from a fairly well-to-do family, targets a guy like Greg May and tries to destroy him because he wouldn't support him politically. And now, Mountain Water District is back under the control of the board running the day-to-day operations. And if you look at the News Express today, the district manager, Roy Sawyer, is telling the board about a problem that the batteries in the meters, the water meters, that they drive by and there's a radio signal that's sent out, and that's how they read the meters. And Pat, he's saying now that this is a major issue. I'll read what the paper says. It says that this is Mr. Sawyers said, the batteries were installed in 2004 and have a shelf life of 10 years. The first of the year, we averaged having to replace around 10 per month. In May, it went into the 20s. In July, it went into the 40s. And this month, we're at almost 80. So this is going to be a major issue shortly. The board needs to look hard to move forward, even if we have to borrow the money to address the issue. Pat, they just had a massive rate increase, and we'll talk about that either if we have time today. Utility management groups, their project managers, people like Grondel Potter, have told the board about this for years. They set no money aside. They set no money aside to cover this battery change. They basically, until UMG came in, didn't even have a maintenance plan like the big water tanks. There's like over 40 of these big, massive water tanks that are supposed to be redone every 15 or 20 years. And when UMG came in, none of them had even been done. And it was just, sloppy management. Well, we're going back to see what happens here. UMG was blamed for the rate increase. Well, first of all, UMG was not the organization that asked the Public Service Commission for a rate increase. That was the Mountain Water Board appointed by the Pike County Fiscal Court. And the reason that there was such a huge rate increase is because there had not been one since 1997. Because the board appointed by the Fiscal Court didn't want to do the unpopular thing of asking for a rate increase. So instead of asking for small incremental rate increases to cover increases in their operating costs, they wait 17 years or 18 years, and then when they get a rate increase, it's massive, and it gets then the people in this county have to shoulder that rate increase. And I'm a Mountain Water District customer. And who it really affected were the people on fixed incomes. So, now we have an arm of the fiscal court, the same bunch that wasted the OxyContin settlement money, who've wasted untold sums of money on the insurance and on, all the things we talked about and seen in the newspaper. Now, their appointees are running the day-to-day operations of Mountain Water, and we'll see how that works out.
Well, I guess we'll have to leave it there as we're out of time, Ray. So let's have some numbers.
If you have a question about the program, you can reach me at the office at 606-432-5777 or 1-888-RAY-JONES.
Well, Ray, thank you so much for being in the studio this morning so I could call in from South Dakota. I'm looking forward to getting back, but thank you for being here.
And next week, Pat, we'll have some statistics about Mountain Water and some of the issues.
Oh, wonderful.
And we'll talk about why, when the occupational tax was debated, that District 1 Magistrate Jeff Anderson kept wanting to talk about utility management group instead of addressing the reasons that they were raising taxes on every man and woman who works in this county and every business that's trying to employ people. So we'll have some conversations about that next week.